Hey, so in this video, we're gonna take a look at 11 different rules of money. Some of these have the potential to save you thousands of dollars over your lifetime and help you build that financial freedom that you're really looking for. So let's just get into this video. My name is Nate. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more videos like this one. So let's just start right now with number 11, and that is understanding the idea of opportunity cost. So if you've ever taken an entry-level economics course, you've probably learned about opportunity cost. But let me just put this into perspective here. Let me give you an example of this. So say that you could go to college for 4 years and every year that would cost you $30,000. So $120,000 for a college education. But what you want to do is think about the opportunity cost behind every decision that you make. So the opportunity cost is essentially just the next best option. So to think about the real cost of college, what you could do is instead of just thinking it's $120,000, you could think, what would you be doing in those 4 years if you weren't in school? Well, maybe you'd be in the workforce, maybe making, say, $30,000 a year. So that's another $120,000 in lost potential wages over those 4 years while you were in school. So hopefully it's making sense. And you can see that if you're looking at it from that perspective, that the opportunity cost included with the cost of college is closer to $250,000 for a college education. So that's just an example there. There's tons of other different examples of opportunity cost, but you want to think about the next best option to everything that you're doing and every decision that you're making in terms of monetary value. So there's 10 more on this list. And the next one is by understanding the concept of leverage and how you can leverage your money to make more money. So you're probably going to hear people like Robert Kiyosaki talking about this all the time. A lot of real estate investors leverage their money. So the point of this is that you can control, say, a $2 million asset like a house or a large apartment complex for $2 million by only putting down maybe $400,000 or $500,000. And so this is really the point of leveraging, how you can really grow your money very quickly. A lot of real estate investors, they're not going to pay 100% cash for a brand new apartment complex. Very few real estate investors will pay full 100% of the price for a new property, and that's because they're leveraging their money so they can get more properties at one time instead of putting all of their money locking away into one certain property. So leverage your money is definitely something you want to look into in the future. Number 9 is to capitalize on a crisis. Now, we're not talking about selling gasoline for $20 a gallon during a hurricane. That's just not cool. What we're talking about is capitalizing on a financial crisis. So for example, 2008, 2009, a lot of people were hit pretty hard. Unemployment almost 10%, very bad times. But if you got into the markets in 2008, 2009 until 2018, you made a killing in just about anything that you purchased. And so that's the whole point of this. Warren Buffett is commonly seen saying that you want to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. So when everybody's running away because the market's melting down and collapsing, maybe that's a time when you want to consider getting into the markets. Now, you might not always be best off that way, but generally speaking, if you see a crisis, sometimes you want to run into the crisis instead of running away from the crisis. Number 8 is to hack your taxes. So we're not talking about tax evasion or tax fraud, nothing illegal here. We're talking about legal loopholes within the US government where you can get away with paying less taxes by having certain assets and using certain exchanges and rules that have been put in place primarily by the rich for the rich, but you can use those tools that the rich put in place for yourself too, because if you look at the top 0.1% of Americans, a lot of them are paying less taxes than somebody who might be making $250,000 a year. And if you remember, at one point Warren Buffett said that he actually pays less in taxes as a percentage of his income than his secretary does. So there's a lot of loopholes within the government and how you can get around some of these taxes. For example, long-term capital gains tax. You could use the 1031 exchange for real estate. So there's a lot of different loopholes within there that you have to sift through. Just sit down and take a look at it, do some reading on that instead of just showing up for tax day and doing TurboTax and submitting everything. Really dig into it deep, and you can find loopholes to avoid taxes legally without any issues. So that is number 8. It's something that could save you a lot of money over your lifetime. Number 7, having rich friends can almost directly correlate into you yourself being rich. So if you ever heard the common saying that you are the average of your 5 closest friends, if you just take a minute to think about this, say that you were friends with Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, many rich people. Where would you be in life? Chances are you'd be pretty rich as well. You'd be pretty well off because you're hanging out with people who have tons of money. So you're throwing ideas off of each other. You're starting businesses together. But if you're hanging out at the bar 5 nights a week, hanging out with your buds, your 5 closest friends, and they're not doing anything, well, chances are you're not going to do much either. So you want to, think about who you're hanging out with and how you can set yourself up for success in the future. And that is by hanging out with people who are successful, who do have money and who have made money on their own. So number 6, money follows attention. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Just a great example of this would be the Logan Paul boxing match. He was boxing somebody a couple days ago, and he ended up making millions of dollars from an amateur boxing match because he has eyes on him. He has a lot of people watching him, whereas real, pro boxers who just enter the league might make a couple $1,000s from a fight. So money does follow attention, very much so. So if you have millions of eyes on you, it almost directly correlates to having money. You look at the Walmart yodeling kid who's in Walmart. Now that everybody knows him, he's making thousands of dollars all the time because people are just looking at him. He can throw up an ad somewhere and make $10,000 on an advertisement for wearing some t-shirt or some hat. And so that is the whole point of this. Money follows attention. Keep that in mind as you go forward in your life. So number 5 is quite possibly my favorite on this list, and that is understanding the concept of sunk costs and how that can affect you in your everyday life. So this is something that you'll probably also learn in some type of economics course if you take that in college or at some point in your life. And sunk costs, the best way to explain this is that a sunk cost is a cost that's already been incurred that you can't get back. So let me just give you an example of this and how this can play out in your everyday life. So a few weeks ago, I bought a bus ticket to New York. It was like $48. And a couple days before I went on that bus, my friend called me up and said, "Hey Nate, I'm going to New York the same exact day that you're going. I'm driving there. Do you want me to just drive you for free?" And I said, well, wait a minute, let me think about that. I already bought a bus ticket. The cost has already been incurred. Now, a lot of people at that point, they would say, okay, well, maybe I would get to New York faster if I went with my friend. I would have more fun. I'd be able to hang out with them. Or I could take the bus because I already paid for the bus ticket. And interestingly enough, a lot of people will just take the bus because they paid for the bus ticket. Hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully I'm explaining this as easily as possible. But a lot of people would choose to take the bus just because they already paid for it. And they'd say, sorry friend, I already paid for the bus, therefore I kind of have to go on the bus because I already paid for it. But in reality, you should really go from the point where you already paid, you can't get that money back. So from that point forward, you might as well not even factor that money into your decision going forward. Hopefully that's making sense. If you have questions, leave them down below and I'll explain this a little bit better to you. But a lot of business owners actually fall into this trap of not understanding sunk costs, where they'll sink $2 million into a project, and after $2 million they realize it's not working out, it's not ever going to work out, but for some reason they dump more money into it, and they just keep dumping more money into it to sort of make themselves feel better, hope that maybe one day it'll work. But in reality, that's a sunk cost. Those $2 million are already lost. It might already be a disaster of a project. Maybe they're trying to build a new building and it's not going to work out. Number 4, compound interest. This is something that's quoted by Albert Einstein himself, saying that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. You need to understand that your money can make money on top of itself, and every year it can compound on top of itself until you're making incredible amounts of money every single year. So compound interest, just understand that concept and how it works and how you can go forward in your life making more money every single year, because it's compounding on top of each other. And you might be making 10% per year, and then you add 10% on top of that and you're making more every single year. So it's not simple interest, it's compounding interest. Number 3, don't try to keep up with the Joneses. So many people make this mistake when they go to buy a car, and they can either buy a minivan for 20 grand or an Escalade for 90 grand. Now both cars will get you from A to B, pretty similar cars, but one's just going to cost you $70,000 more than the other one. But you want to look cool, you want to pick up your kids from soccer in a really nice car with the leather seats, and that's going to create losers, because overall, for your money, for your financial wealth, it's going to hurt you when you're making those decisions to get that 80-inch TV just to beat out your friend who might have gotten a 55-inch TV just so you can be cooler than them. Don't worry about that crap. Just do you and build your wealth, while also spending money on things that you really do want in your life. You don't have to squirrel everything away in your life, but be smart and don't just try to beat out people just to sort of fit in with society. So that's number 3. It's very important. Now the next one is to understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. Now there really is a difference. Good debt could be something like student loan debt, where you're investing into yourself, and hopefully you're going to pay back that debt so that you can get more income in the future. Maybe you can make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year versus $30,000 a year if you didn't go to college. So student loan debt can be a good debt. Another type of good debt could be something like taking out a mortgage on an investment property. Maybe you bought a quad or a duplex or a triplex, and you are building equity in that home. You're becoming a landlord, and you're taking on good debt, what we would call good debt. Bad debt would be something like credit card debt, personal loans, loans for vacations, sometimes car loans if you don't need the car. So those are bad debts, and those are good debts. So the number one rule of money is that money does not directly correlate with happiness. And you need to understand this, that if you think that if you're not happy now, and if you had $1 million, you're going to be happy, that's not always the case. If you look at lottery winners, the vast majority of them say that they've actually been happier before they won the lottery. You can look that up on your own. You can Google it right now. A lot of lottery winners were happier before they won the lottery. So just because you have money doesn't mean that you're going to be happy. A lot of people who have millions of dollars sadly commit suicide. They kill themselves. So it doesn't directly correlate with money. You don't want to think that happiness and money go directly hand in hand. Sure, it does certainly help. Studies have proven that it does help increase happiness and living quality, obviously, but it's not the number one key. So make sure you're hanging out with your friends and family, and don't focus too much to the point where you're cutting out friends, you're cutting out family, so you can just focus on building your wealth. I did that for a couple months at one point in my life, and it just wasn't worth it. So don't do that. Make sure that you are connecting with friends and family. You're having a good time in your life, because that's what life is all about. So thanks for watching this video, guys. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. Don't forget to check out this video right here, and I will see everybody next time.